feeling so.
There he is. How you doing, man?
How you doing? Good. How are you doing?
Good.
So here's Ash.
Ash, how's it going, man?
Wonderful, thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I don't think I haven't seen your face since we went out for breakfast the last time we were in Victoria.
Yeah.
Here we are. Hey, Brian.
Hey. What's the last, several months been like for you guys with as far as kind of COVID and everything like that? Is it like really just messed up these plans for you guys, or?
I think that it's. Did you ever see the movie? What's the NASA space movie where they try to go around the moon and then they lose power and then they have to come back?
Like Apollo 13?
Apollo 13.
Yeah, Apollo 13. Remember when they're prepping for disaster and then like the flight director says, "I believe this will be our finest hour."
Yeah.
I echo those sentiments.
Nice.
That I believe this will be our finest hour.
Yeah, well, it's a test, right? It's everything is kind of, it's sort of happening, and you're sort of being tested as far as endurance and everything goes. And like the thing I learned is that like I think I was making myself a little bit too busy for a little bit, and like going to do things, DJing on weekends, and then it's like, oh shoot, when did I ever have time to spend with my kids? Right. Whereas this is like, gets me in a house with them, and it's actually been great. It's been fun, and it's like it's never getting tiresome or anything like that. So it'll be the next test is like going back to normal or whatever that normal is going to be.
I just hope as a planet, we remove the immediacy of, let's just say, like free society and capitalism. Like I love the tenets of it that motivate me to get out of bed every day. However, further to your point, there becomes too many distractions and burdens and barriers from you living your actual life, because suddenly it becomes about everything else you're doing and you start to lose focus of where you're at. And I mean, we could put that in the conversation of USS in our final record. Like we have been running wild for 13 years.
Yeah. And
now we've reached a point where you throw in a pandemic when Ash and I were already about to conclude this journey and our collective synergy together. And now for a person like myself, who has always gone outward, I've actually gone inward. And a lot of those lessons, I've taken from Ash and watching his journey. And now I've got to live them in the comfort of my own home for the first time in my adult life.
Yeah. So this is your 6th interview. Have you been asked 6 times? Why are you guys calling it quits? Or has that been like a common question?
Ash, load up the gun of responses that you've been just laying on the line with everybody. Ash does some really good ones.
On the line. Well, Brian, I mean, why is the most fundamental question that we have about anything, right? Yeah. And a lot of times why gets in the way of the actual experience itself.
Well, shit can maybe, sorry to interrupt, but can I then give you my theory in terms, because that is like, I think when that was announced, I kind of went on this sort of journey in terms of like, I've been the USS fan obviously since, you guys have started up, and your guys's career basically is almost my journey as well, in that like when I started at the Zone, that's when we started playing USS. And to me, my interpretation of this, and tell me if I'm wrong, or, feel free to steal this answer, but my interpretation is that like your music is, to me, it's become this sort of fully realized reflection of your own and maybe even other people's journeys. And it's like the band calling it quits kind of feels like, from both an emotional and an artistic level, it's like that fully completed arc. And I can see that in a lot of the lyrics of your songs.
Well,
and to release Happy is kind of like that, almost that completed arc.
DJ Brian Capistrano, so no one in our camp has ever said that we were calling it quits, right? That was that's just how people choose to, interpret from their perspective of what they write, right? Your answer is actually, I'm happy that you expressed that, because the last song on Einsteins of Consciousness, which is called Dragons, which is the final stage of the metamorphic cycle of the butterfly, that the album's sort of based on, is the fully realized when Jay and I met within the first conversation that we had in 2004. I had said I wanted to make grunge drum and bass.
Yeah.
And that was even before dubstep had even really been invented. Dubstep wasn't even really around or popular yet at all. And so you're right. We actually, 6 albums later, accomplished our goal. And it took us, all these albums, all these songs, everything, this entire experience. And isn't that a fun thing to say? This whole time I was trying to get to do that.
Yeah.
And it realized itself. And when Jay and I met, he was Human Kebab, a garage rapper, and I had a grunge pop band, a surrealist grunge pop band called Mensa Dropout. And our first show together was actually my band opening for Jay's solo rap act.
Wow.
At a Legion in his hometown. That there are only maybe, how many tickets did we sell, Jay?
Probably like 40. Maybe.
Yeah, Jay was like breakdancing in front of the Pizza, trying to get kids to buy tickets. He brought a piece of cardboard, and it was like so DIY. So, in that way, Brian, it's like Jay and I, like the way that we grew as songwriters, the way we grew as performers, professionals, like, we have a nightmare manager story where almost ruined our lives. We learned the hard way. Like we become an incorporated business. We learn, you really get an opportunity to learn what your values are by seeing your values not being reflected back at you. Like it goes on and on and on. And so now we arrive back at this wonderful, like, I love the theory about how, like circles are a wonderful shape. A circle, when it's ready, needs to becomes a spiral, and then it spirals outward, And so we've had a lot of fun in this circle. We kept the parameters, and now we just get to expand outward, and it's glorious.
Yeah, I like that. I really do like that. Because it also made me think about that. I saw that on Twitter when you tweeted it on October 21st when the Toronto Star was chirping your guys' band name.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, because I loved your tweet about it. But because that's another thing that I looked at, and it was almost at that announcement of the fact that this is going to be your last album that also made me think about your name, and really what brought it full circle to me was even just the lyrics of Happy, because in your name it's like your name talks about a search, right? And it talks about this search for synergy, which is like the interaction of two or more things that create an effect that's greater than their individual selves, right? And whether it's sort of my relationship with you as a fan listening to your music, it's like your music, it fits any mood that I'm in, right? If I'm feeling down, I'll listen to a song like Shipwreck, or if I'm if I want to not take myself too seriously, I'll listen to Stationary Robbery, right? And if I want to feel that relief or that happiness, I'm listening to Happy, right? And it that in itself is really where your name makes sense, and that's when I kind of started to analyze that. Is there, like, what is the main thing that you feel like you've learned about yourselves in this time as a band?
Good question, Brian. I'll answer, and I'll just say that so the name itself, that if I was able to have a conversation linguist to linguist with Mr. Ben Rayner, who I love dearly because I love the way he writes and how honest he is. And my mom was a Daily Toronto Star subscriber, and that was the first major media we got, was my mom eating her oatmeal and blueberries and saying, "Oh, look, they wrote about you in the paper, son." And we were still like roofers at that point. And it was like, Toronto band has worst name of all time. And it was like, like my mom was always, "You need to go back to school. You need to be like you need to use that brain of yours." And so anyhow, what I've learned, we have a song, Brian, called Alien.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, you know what? I wrote, where did we play with Mother for 2 nights in Victoria?
We played at the
theater.
At the theater.
Yeah. Right. The Royal Theater. Right?
Okay, so I remember I was sitting in the stairwell of the theater playing my acoustic guitar, and I was writing that song, and Ryan Goldemon had walked by, and I was singing "Alien Crawling Under Human Skin, let go of everything you think you know." And I was singing the song. He walked by. He's like, "Oh," he's like, that's a cool melody, dude." And he walks by, and then I said, "Pure heart, you're everything you think you aren't." And that is what I've learned, is that I'm everything that I think that I'm not. And so my own self-perception has been so distorted that my ambition was so driven by a need for perfection. Mm. You know, I've self-analyzed myself to know that, you know, just to help, like, I can say this so quickly, you know, thousands and thousands of hours in retreats and psychotherapy and everything. And it's like, I already know. It's like, I thought it was my fault that my dad left my family, or it wasn't a part of my family, because if I was perfect, then he wouldn't have left. So I had to get straight A's. No one else can help with group projects. I have to do everything myself. I need to be in control. I need to be number one. I need to be the best. To the point that, Brian, I only saw the weakness in myself, always trying to be perfect. Yeah. So then by default, all I saw was the weakness in other people, and I didn't see their strengths. And just because that's how our perception can get distorted. Yeah. So in this process, when Shipwreck won Song of the Year on 102.1 The Edge, me and Jay are standing in the Phoenix, and I'm standing there with this Shipwreck #1 thing, and my internal dialogue is going, "You're all idiots. I'm not any good. Right. Like, this song isn't any good. Like, I know, like, my voice, I have an awful voice. I have a terrible high-pitched voice, and I'm irritated. Like, do you know what I mean?" Yeah. And it's like, that journey through this, like, through this whole thing, and then, yeah, ultimately arriving here at this place where all of the practices and the ayahuasca retreats and the silent meditation retreats and the, you know, all the science and everything that's gone into making myself to be available to do this, to function as an adult and to kind of work this kind of stuff out. Yeah. You know, brings us to this moment to actually be able to say, when we wrote that song Happy a couple of years ago, actually, the producer we wanted to do it with said, "No, we can't record this song." And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "Because I don't believe you." Really? Because I wasn't at the right point in my life where I could sing that song. Yeah. And the incredible thing is that it took, like, I didn't know it was possible to feel happy. Mm-hmm. It's just, I've had a default setting of dread, apprehension, just absolute, like, almost just being terrified of life. My amygdala is malfunctioning. I know I understand the physiology. You know, if I go deeper, there's you know, you can go deeper into spirituality, and there's other things going on if you want to go there. But, like, I'm really happy I figured it out. And it was a lot of work.
So when did you write that lyric then? That part of the song that's my favorite lyric is, I had to go too far to know how far to go to find what I'm looking for. Because that seems like that completed the circle, or that completed the arc.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, that was I mean, every single lyric and every single song, I could tell you the conversation or the line in the book or the line in the movie or the place I was sitting or the conference, like there's a producer named Gavin Brown in Toronto who worked with like 3 Days Grace and the Tragically Hip and the Bare Naked Ladies. And that was a conversation him and I had.
Right.
And that was something that,
he was just riffing about his experiences of going down the rabbit hole that many bands and artists aspire to. And that's with all the excesses of success and number ones and millions of dollars and all that. And he was just telling Ash and I, to add to that, Ash, and to Ash singing that lyric, is in that conversation, it came up that the only way out is through.
Yeah.
And it's that sentiment that you have to know, those who have gone too far know how far to go. And that
and it's like, I've been in this lifetime, Brian, it's like I've spent a lot of time living monastically, like with monks at monasteries. And that's like a very strict, absolute, like you follow precepts, like complete, like what do you call it when you don't have sex? Oh yeah, being married.
Yeah.
No, celibate.
Yeah.
That was a good one. No,
yeah.
So you're like, I love when married guys joke around about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's like, never. So it's like, I personally have, and this is what's just been so fascinating about Jay and I's relationship, right? Is that like Jay's comfortable with who he is. Doesn't matter who he's around, what's going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not speaking for him, but it's just in the way that I was always just not comfortable with myself, just restless. Like, dude, I haven't bit my nails in 5 months.
Hey.
I've been biting my nails since I had teeth. I've had an innate inner restlessness that was not comfortable in this skin, not comfortable in this body, not comfortable with who I am, not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's so many of us are like that in different ways, and it manifests in different ways. But the beauty of it is that the overcompensation for those things creates beautiful art.
Yeah.
And creates not even art, business, and creates so many things. And it's like, that's the piece that is about acceptance. And it's like, when I accept that part of who I am, then it's a strength. Right. And then that distorted perception that has been sort of like everyone else sees it except me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
By that?
Yeah. Very much.
And so, what a friggin', like, what a journey.
Yeah, it has been. I wanted to make sure I got to this because, It's really just wanted to take like the last few minutes to thank you on behalf of our listeners and the city of Victoria, because you guys have meant a lot to our city. So even just with this last album and when you guys can tour again, that's going to mean a lot to a lot of us.
Brian, I wanted to say that like we're not running and rushing to get on the road. Everyone's going to try to go on tour. Like we're not running to the gate to be the first ones out.
Yeah.
We're going to, like, when it's time to do this, it'll be set up in a way that we can come into the station for a couple of hours and really do something properly with you guys.
That'd
and
be
like
awesome.
Really do something special and really talk about, because Victoria, like I've talked in 3 of the interviews asked about my favorite show, and it was the Fringe Festival one where everyone waited in the rain, and we sang 2 15/16, and I said when you're like the ideal rainy day activity, and everyone lost their minds.
Rain. Yeah,
as like one of my favorite moments of my entire life. Yeah, let alone our band.
Oh,
so
do you guys remember? So we had a listener named Angela. I don't know if you remember this. I don't have to play you the whole thing, but
The Zone.
Welcome back to My Turn on the Zone with your host, Warrior Girl Angela. Coming up next, we're going to go into one of my all-time favorite bands, USS, Human Kebab. If you're listening, I love you. Anti-Venom, especially close to my heart. For me, it's all about raging through the war with chemotherapy. And when I hear that song, it's just like that extra oomph just to push you through. Just when you think you've hit rock bottom, you're never truly there. You can get back up and you will win.
Still playing games with the hourly wages, feeling left out. Could you not see the consequences of treading in your doubt? Hope is always the antidote, and I'm feeling what I can. Could you not see the obviousness in acting like a limb? Fear is always the catalyst, and then shivers through my heart, and I can't stop it from happening when I'm falling apart. I can't stop it from happening when my hope light goes out. Love is always the habit show when my hope light goes out. Truth is,
made her day. I originally invited her. I wanted to see if she could join us for it. She said unfortunately had to work, but she wanted to at least I wanted to give her the last word in our conversation. So she sent me this yesterday.
Hey Ash, hey Human Kebab, it's Warrior Girl Angela here. Thank you for being amazing. 7 years ago, you guys sat down with me at the Zone for a surprise to help me through the darkest period of my life. I'm happy to say that 7 years later, I am cancer-free. I'm happy, I'm strong, and I'm healthy. Thank you for the music. Thank you for the meet and greets, the concerts, and the hugs. Oh my gosh, your hugs. I'm going to miss those the most. You guys became not just a band to me, you guys became my friends. And I am very excited to see what the next chapters of your lives go into. Thank you very much for being a big part of my life. I love you, and can't wait to see you guys again soon.
So we had a lot of people in Victoria that you guys have affected over the years positively, and so on behalf of them, I wanted to say officially thank you. I know we're gonna see each other.
I was just cutting onions.
I know we're gonna see each other again, and yeah, it's gonna be a really fun last tour with you guys. But if I didn't get to ever say it, how much of a fan and how much of I appreciate you guys, and relay that from our listeners as well. That you guys have done amazing things with your career as USS. So.
Love you, Angela. Thank you for that video very much. Wow.
Stay happy, stay strong, and stay healthy, and that is just glorious and wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for your time, hey?
Thank you, Brian. You're the man, buddy. We miss you dearly.
I miss you guys too.
Yeah, and like I said on behalf of us, we when the time is right to do something very proper and in that way. To spend some serious time with you guys, we'll do that, right? We're not doing that till we can do that.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, brother.
Appreciate it, too.
got me feeling so happy.
Zone at 91.3